Welcome everybody to our Easy Product Workshop. And without further ado, the one and only Miss Joni Monero.
Hey, thank you, Brian. Hi, everyone. You can wave. There you go. It's good to see you all here today. And this is an Easy Product Series workshop whereby we help you to improve and utilize your features as you know them or maybe not. And so we'll take questions from time to time and unmute you to ask any questions you might have. So first thing I wanted to get to is an understanding of the virtual orchestra, because that is what these instruments are called. What constitutes the virtual orchestra is actually the performers that we have. Prior to the virtual orchestras existing, we had all full band instruments. Oh, I'm over here. I didn't know where I was. Sorry.
There you are.
We had full band instruments. And then when the virtual orchestra came out, that changed everything, because we now have what we call 3 performers. And as I move to the Easy 2, we have listed full band and then a pianist button and then a guitarist button. That is what makes up the virtual orchestra. So for each rhythm style or music style, if you will, that we have, it's going to have a full band rhythm, it's going to have a pianist rhythm, and a guitarist rhythm. Now, if you're on an Easy 1, you have automatically full band instruments, and you have a pianist performer, but not the guitarist performer. And each one is drastically different. So I want to say a little bit about each one and just give you a little example here. Full band has all the instruments in it being played all together in the background. So it's going to sound something like this. So there you heard all of the full band instruments being played at the same time. If I go to the pianist performer, we're only going to hear just a piano background, very simple. And the reason that took place, I was working for Lowry at the time these instruments were created, and there were so many people who would write us letters and say, we wish we could just sound like a really great piano player. That's how the pianist performer was born. And then in developing that, they also did develop the guitarist mode. And I'll be honest with you, when I heard that we were having a guitarist mode on the instruments, I thought Lowry was crazy, because a guitar is a guitar. I really didn't know a lot of differences with that. But there were so many different types of guitarist styles that it turned out to be equally as popular as the piano performer and the full band as well. So when we turn on a pianist performer or a guitarist performer, no drums will come on. So all you'll hear is a pianist background. So now what you're listening to is just a piano background. That doesn't mean you can't have the drums. But if you want the drums from the start, you have to turn up the drum volume so that it comes on as part of the introduction. Now you can hear the drummer in the background. The same is true for the guitarist. If I turn the guitarist on, I'm going to hear no drums, just a guitar pattern. Now, if I want to hear the drums, I'm going to turn the volume up. And again, you'll hear the drums in the ending as well. So I really like the flexibility that we have with the pianist and guitarist, because sometimes we don't want to hear the drums when we first start to play a song, and then maybe at the chorus you want to add the drums. So you don't have to have them all the time. You can have the drummer none of the time, all of the time, or some of the time, depending on when you put it on. So that's a really great choice for you to make. And it also enables, just by raising the drum volume on a pianist or a guitarist performer, it enables you to change the background while you're playing the song without having to really touch any buttons other than the volume of the drums. So that's the performers. That's what creates the virtual orchestra that we have today. Are there any questions so far?
It looks like we got a hand raised from Judy's iPad. Judy, do you have a question? You can go ahead and unmute yourself if you like.
No, I did not ask a question, so take that question off.
Okay, no problem.
I don't see it on mine, so I don't know how I got it. Sorry.
No problem. All right, we'll go back to Joni then here. Unless anybody else has any questions, if you do, please feel free to raise your hand or wave it around, and hopefully Sean or I can see it, but I don't see anybody else as of right now. So I'd say back to you, Joni.
Okay. So that takes care of the performers and the creation of the virtual orchestra, which you can utilize very nicely. One thing I do want to say about rhythm styles, because I see this all the time, and once you get in the habit, it won't happen to you anymore. But if you're not in the habit, so for instance, if I'm on standards full band, okay, and you decide, okay, I want to play a different song now. So I'm going to go to country, and you touch the country button. Okay, always in between your rhythm styles. If you want to change your rhythm style, you have to stop the instrument first and then change the button. So here's my standards. I'm going to stop and I'm going to change it to country. Now, the reason for that is if you just change your rhythm buttons without stopping the instrument, what happens is it adapts the speed of the previous rhythm you were on. So it doesn't come on at the tempo that would be normally set for that particular rhythm style. So it's very important to get in the habit of touching start, stop before you change your instruments or performers, and then come back in, of course, with your chord and playing. So that's a really something that's very important that you should make a note of, just so that you know, and then you are set with a correct tempo. Now, the difference is, and I've seen people do this as well, if you have set your tempo and you locked your tempo, then when you change buttons without touching stop, your tempo's staying locked. So I'm not sure you want to do that, because you wouldn't play, for instance, All of Me at the same speed you might play Moon River. So it's better. I don't mind having the tempo locked. That's a good thing. But when you do change rhythms, at times you want the rhythm style appropriate to the speed it should be in that song. So just give that some thought and remember to use your start stop button. Another thing that I've seen with a lot of people in help sessions, and I guess all of us see it, is when they're getting a help session and we're working on a piece of music, we see people not start with the intro or end with the ending. That's what makes the song complete. that makes it really fun, and it makes you be a total part of the orchestra. So I always recommend using the intro and the ending, and sometimes people just stop it and say, well, I'm going to go on now. But it is really nice to have that completion total by using the intro or the ending. Next, I'm going to move on again to the fill. And the fill, of course, on the Easy 2, the fill, you will use your button, which is right here. When you use other easy instruments and the Freedom 3, you're going to have a foot switch that's going to help you with the fill. So that makes it a little bit easier because then you don't have to pick up your hand. When we pick up our hands, then we have to kind of look to get them back in the position. So it's a little bit easier when we have the foot switch to not have to engage our fingers in the buttons. But I also want to say something else about the fill. No matter which beat, and the way you can identify beats is watching the lights go around. I don't know, Brian, if you can zoom in here. Red, green, 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 red, green, green, green. So if I hit the fill on the first beat, which is the red, the fill is going to finish the measure. Watch. And then the light goes off. If I don't hit the fill till I get to the third beat, it's only going to finish one beat's worth and it's going to stop. Watch. And then the fill goes off. So depending on how much of the fill you want to hear, which I would prefer to hear a complete measure's worth, because then you really get the fun and creativity of what that background's doing for you. So be enticed to hit it on the first beat, and or if you hold the button, let's say you missed it and you hit it on the second beat, then just hold the fill till it passes the red again, and then it'll do one more measure for you. Watch this. So the fill's still going and it completed the measure. And that's something I think a lot of people don't always realize, that that fill is geared to follow the beats just like we are. So it's pretty important for you. If you want to hear it and have the completion of a fill, you're going to want to hang on to the fill. So that means if you're using the foot switch, that means you're going to hold your foot on the foot switch until you want it to complete the measure and then let go, and then the fill will stop. And you can always, when using the foot switch, the fill light will always come on. So when the fill is over, that light will go out. So you'll know when the fill is completed and when it's not. Sometimes people just reach up real fast and touch the button and let go, and in one beat or two beats, the fill is over because it's completed the measure. So that's a little bit about how to draw it out. When do we use the fill? That's another really good question. The first answer is anytime you like. The second answer is when you get lost in the music, hit the fill, because then the musicians are playing on, making you sound great while you find your place. Another time to use that fill is when you're turning a page. When you turn a page of music, sometimes it takes you a little minute, and just bringing that up from an educational point of view, try to turn the page from the bottom of the pages, not the top, because if you do the top, you have to raise your hand too high and it takes you longer to get back to the instrument keyboard. So there are good reasons to use the fill. When you're going to change your sound, that's a great time to use the fill. Let the instruments work for you and fill in, if you will, the background while you're changing your sound. And then when you come back in with your right hand, you have a new sound in it, and it always sounds great. So that's a little about the fill, and it can be a wonderful asset. I had somebody the other day, brand new, say to me, well, I haven't gotten to the fill yet. No, I said, no, let's get to the fill right now, because when you're adjusting yourself, whatever your hands have to adjust or your buttons you're trying to adjust, the fill's a great thing to keep the music background going. So That's on all of these things that I'm talking about on all instruments are on the left side of the information screen that you're looking at right now. So I'm going to slide over here to the Easy 10. And what I didn't mention on the Easy 2 is sometimes you just want to play and you don't want to have a background, and that's okay too. That's why we put on the Easy button, and now we have our chords being played. You can hear the chords changing, yes? Okay, so I like to talk about this because a lot of people don't understand. I call it the plunker. You hear that? Well, when I'm playing my chords, I would prefer for the chords to sound very smooth in the background. And if the plunker is on, every time you touch a key, it plunks. Now, if you go all the way to the right side of the instrument where it says lower and it says more, that's the guy that's the plunker. And it could be any instrument. It might be a piano, it might be a guitar. If I turn off my more, and again, this is on the lower section, this is for the lower chords here. Now I have a very smooth, what's called ensemble. And it's real smooth, and we don't hear that clicking when we strike a chord. So that's kind of a pretty important thing to realize if you're not liking the sound of the tapping each time you touch a key. We also, the button that's next to the more says orchestral to the right split. If that is turned on, then we're going to have a sound on the lower right split keyboard. If that's not turned on, we're not going to have a sound down there. Another thing that seems to surprise people is that if you're going to have a different sound down here than you are up here, then you're going to have two lights on. One's going to be a solid light, as you're seeing right here, and one's going to be a blinking light. The blinking light is the one on the lower right split. So if you don't have that, then the same sound that's up here is going to be down here if you don't have two different instruments selected. And like I said, the one, you hold the one and touch the other, and the second one you touched will be blinking. That takes the sound down to the lower right split keyboard. So I'm going to go back to some styles now over here and just go through a couple of them. We have beautiful Latin styles that take place on the Easy 10. In the full band, it sounds like this. Now, this is a new part of the song. It's a section that's going to repeat, and so I probably want to change my sound. So the beauty of having what we call style setups, multiple style setups, is these are all sounds waiting for me that will fit the Latin perfectly. So I'm going to choose one of those, and now I'm going to have a different sound for the second part of the song. So each time I touch a setup, as we like to call them, a style setup, it's going to change the sound for me. So I actually have on the Easy 10 6 different style setups, 6 up on the upper keyboard and 6 different sounds on the lower keyboard. So that's one of the things that keeps it really interesting. And we encourage people to change your sounds, you know, through the musical phrases. It keeps it not only interesting for the listener, but for you, the player, too, to hear the different wonderful sounds that Lowry created. So we think a lot of that. And with the style setups, the beauty of that is they're all right in front of you, just under the information screen. So we don't really have to go touching a lot of buttons. We can do it that way, and many people do, which is fine, because then you can select the one you want, which is great. But if you don't want to, you at least have the beauty of having things right in front of you in order to be able to change your sounds. This is probably a good point because we've covered the lower sounds and the lower right split, and we've covered style setups at this point in time. So this is probably a good place to pause and say, are there any questions?
All right, looks like we got a question from Elaine. Elaine, feel free to unmute yourself there. We'll put your video up. Do you have a question for Joni? Try clicking that unmute button there. Try again. Still not working for you? Leave your hand
There.
raised. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it said that you had to do it. Anyway, I have an Easy 4, and so I don't know. I was clicking on the style setup. There are 3 buttons below my my area where tempo chord key. And so is there a different way? Because I didn't see it do anything. Is there something else?
You have a style setup button.
Yes, it has. It's blue. Mm-hmm.
Right, and each rhythm style that you choose will give you a different sound. So you have one sound change option, unless you want to take the option of changing the buttons yourself.
Okay, I'm a little lost with that. So my style setup allows me to do what? So I have Latin picked.
So if you choose a rhythm style and your style setup button is lit up, like you're seeing right here now, then it's selected a sound for you that will match that rhythmic background that you chose.
Okay, where is it showing me that it's selecting something?
2 places. One, the style setup button will be illuminated.
Red. Yeah,
and
it is.
Then on the right hand side of the instrument, you will see some button that is lit up. That's one of those sounds that the instrument selected for you.
So if I keep pushing it, will it change which one?
No.
No.
It
Okay.
gives you one option.
Okay.
One option only, but it's one option per rhythm style. But
Okay.
you have the flexibility to be able to change it for yourself if you like.
Okay, just by reaching over. Okay.
By
All right.
reaching over to your orchestral section and changing the button yourself, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, great question. We got a couple more here, Joni. We got one from JJ. JJ, what's your question?
I'm working off an Easy 4 too, and I got a little lost when she was talking about on the right-hand side where the keys are. I have trouble trying to figure out how to choose different instruments on the top keyboard and on the lower keyboard. I think you said it really quick, but I didn't grasp it.
Okay, so if you want to have a different sound on the lower keyboard, you're going to have a button illuminated solidly. And so my right now is on marimba. So I'm going to hold the marimba button down. That's in the more section. And I'm going to touch a guitar. Now the guitar is blinking. That is the sound that's going to be on my lower split keyboard. Does that help you?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And again, make sure that your black button, the orchestral 2 right split, make sure that's turned on, because that is what controls whether you're going to hear that sound down here or not. It's on now. If I turned it off, I'm just getting an organ sound because it's another sound that happens to be on my ensemble.
So the lights that are up on the top right there, they control the top keyboard as, I'm still a little confused on
They control the top keyboard, yes, those sounds, and they also control the lower right split on the lower keyboard.
Okay, so I have to hold a solid button down that's on those lower
If you wish to change, like if you're on a rhythm style, your style setup will provide you an upper keyboard sound and a lower right split keyboard sound. But if you choose to change it, that's the way to do it.
Okay, I think I got it.
Does that help you?
Yeah, thank you.
Good. You're very, very welcome.
All right, another great question. All right, looks like we got one more from Jeannie Marie. Jeannie, do you have a question?
Yeah, let me unmute myself here.
There she is. Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I guess. I'm going back to the more, and on the lower, for your left hand, you've got more. You were talking about that. If I want to change the sounds in my left hand chord, do I do that the same way that I do change my right hand sounds?
Yes, there is a button called More underneath the lower sounds.
Right.
So if you go to More, you can go through the alphabet. It's in alphabetical order, and you can select any sound that you want it to be. If you don't really want an orchestral sound and you just want to hear smooth strings playing those chords, then you would turn on your ensemble button only, and that will be a smooth string for the lower chord being played.
So when I turn on my original style, the chords are there with the sound, but if I want just the strings or a different sound, I can use the More button to change that, and it will change.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
All right, and one more question, and then we're going to let Joni move on here. This is from
Hey, Brian,
Susie.
we have a question from Lisa as well.
Okay,
I'll get to her in a second.
we'll do two more. Do you have Lisa's question?
Go ahead, Lisa.
Hi. Yep. So my question actually is on the bottom keyboard, my chord split, the lower split is in the middle of the keyboard basically for F. And I know how to change it because I always want to use those keys. So I know how to change it down to be like B or C as my last chord. But is there a way to change it like permanently? Because every time I turn it off and back on, I have to keep changing that.
Yeah, that's correct. Actually, the chord split is at F sharp 3, which you start from the left-hand side of the keyboard and count F sharp 1, F sharp 2, F sharp 3. That's the default that Lowry created for the split. So it is true that when you turn the instrument off and you turn it back on, you would have to reset your split to whatever note you would want it to be.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
All right, and Susie Lamastro. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that right. Susie, did you have a question?
Hi, Susie.
Hey, Joni, how are you?
I'm well, and yourself?
Good. I know one of the things we always talked about was how important style setup was, and to use that a lot. Well, I've started now using a lot of song setups, like an example, not that specific song, like Memory. I found that song setup for me was perfect. I loved it. So I use that. That mean I should not have style setup lit up if I'm using song setup?
Well, that's an interesting question. when you
Good to me.
use song setup, it selects a song. I mean a sound. I'm sorry, that is for that quote unquote particular song. Your style setup button, if you have multiple style setups, when you use song setup, that light does not come on. So you have basically, it has set up with one particular sound. If you want to utilize the other style setups, you will first have to turn your style setup button on and then use the 5 or more that you have depending on your instrument
Okay.
to get those sounds. So song setup is interesting because it absolutely selects a sound that not necessarily is one of those style setups. So it's an additional. I like the style setups a lot personally, and on all instruments of any size, actually. In most cases, I do not use the sound that comes on for song setup because my preference is to have more options already available. So I don't rely on that first sound. I just turn on my style setup button or my auto setup as it is on the Freedom 3. And then I use the sounds that are optional there.
Okay.
That
Answers it.
makes sense?
Yes.
Good to see you,
All
Susie.
right. Great questions, everybody. So what's next for us, Joni?
All right. Well, actually, she segued perfectly into what I was going to talk about next, and that is we have songs and song setups. Sometimes the language is confusing. And actually, let me say one other thing before I go, just because I looked up at the screen and I had touched the ensemble button. So on the screen, it says lower ensemble and then organ and strings. And I've had many people say to me, how come I can't see the regular screen? Well, if the feature light is lit for any reason, that overrides the main screen. So I did turn on the ensemble. I know that it's on, but in my screen, it's still saying it. So if I touch the feature light off, now my home screen comes back to tell me the tempo, the chord, the key, and the sounds that are being on the right hand upper keyboard and the right hand split of the lower keyboard. So that's kind of an important thing to know, how to get back to, as we call it, home. The home screen is make sure you turn your feature light off. And since our friend asked the question about changing the split, I'll just review that in case someone doesn't know how to do that. You would turn on your feature button and you would scroll till it says lower split. And if I don't know if you can see that in the screen or not, but I will select it. And then I can touch any key I want to touch. Let's say I'll touch a C. Now the lower split is changed to C. However, something important to remember about that is if you don't turn the feature light off, and you start to play thinking you're going to play, every time you change a note, it's going to keep changing the split. So once you get the split to where you want it to be, make sure that you turn that feature button off and get back to the home screen, and then it is split to where you want it to be split on the correct note for you. Does that make sense to everybody? I hope so. So going back to song setup, I on an Easy 10 or any of the other Easies above, I prefer to not use the song setup sound that it gives me. I prefer to have options if I have them. Now, if I don't have the options and I only have one style setup or auto setup, as we call it, that's fine. And there's no issue with it at all. But there is a difference between song setup. So when I get to song setup and I scroll, it gets me, let's say I want to play the song Alley Cat. And I select Alley Cat. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but all the lights just changed on song setup, including it even turns on my introduction. So everything's ready to go. But on song setup, it will not play the song for you. You have to play the song. All it did was set up all the buttons for you. So you have to touch nothing except the first chord. And play. And I do touch my ending at the end to get the professional ending. That's what song setup does. Now, when we go to songs, they are the songs that are going to be played, which is really fun. So I'm going to scroll, let's say, to music, music, music. And I'm going to select it. And it will automatically start playing the song for me. Now, something interesting about that is I notice, especially in the music, and the first few songs as we're starting out learning to play, that tempo is pretty fast. The beauty of the instrument is that you can slow the tempo down. So I selected music, music, music. I'm going to select it again. And I'm going to slow the tempo down. So the instrument has the flexibility of you controlling the tempo so that it doesn't have to be too fast or too slow for you. In some cases, like I've had a lot of beginner people who go to play Ode to Joy and they feel like it's just too slow and they want to speed up the tempo. Well, yes, you can, and you can play along with it. As I talk about this feature, I'm going to talk about the Freedom 3 now, because it's got a great feature called Melody Off. And that's really fun. So I can go to my songs and select it. Let's see, we'll do a different one just for fun. When the Saints, here we go. So it's ready, and here it's starting, and it's going to play for me. Okay. I can play along with it. Now, if I press the button that says Melody Off, let's start this again. Okay, so now I have my melody off. Now I can play and learn my right hand, but the chords are playing for me. So I don't have to play two hands at the same time, which is beautiful. And if I take my melody off button off, I lost my song. There we go. All right. And if I take it off, then I can play both. So that's a really fun feature that we have. Again, on the terminology of the Freedom 3, it's called auto setup instead of style setup. We have song setup, which is the same. We have the easy button. It's very much designed to follow the same patterns as the beginner models do. And it's just a super instrument. I'm going to let you hear a little bit of that. some of these intros and endings. Bill Curry is the person who designed these, and he did a marvelous job on the intros and endings. They sound incredible. Take a listen. So that the songs and the melody on is a great feature on the Freedom 3, as well as something I like that I don't think a lot of people talk about, but there's 2 buttons called Orc volumes. That is the volumes for the instruments that are on, and you have the ability to make them as loud as you want to go, or you can make them soft, which comes into handy when we have more than one going at a time. So that's a really great feature, that you can change the volumes on it. And also we get some beautiful organ sounds, a suite, a jazz, and a pipe organ that are right next to that section right there. And then the last thing that I'm going to finish up with is harmonies. Harmonies are great because you can play with one finger, and the instrument will actually sound 2 or 3 or more sounds, in other words, notes. It puts notes in underneath. You can't see them, but you can certainly hear them. So that's a really great feature, because it makes you sound like you're using 2 and 3 fingers at a time, even though you're not. You're just using one finger. So the harmony buttons are very, very important, and they make us sound really, really great. So we have a harmony button on the Easy 10, which they are listed inside the screen, and you scroll to the one you want. On the Freedom 3, we have the duet harmony, and we have the trio harmony. So that's a really nice feature. We can either add 1 note or 2 notes, and even though we're playing one finger, you'll hear more than one thing going on, which is nice when we're brand new and just trying to practically get the notes of the song down. It's nice to have a harmony because it makes me sound better than I really am. So we love that. On the Freedom 3 also, you will see a difference in the lights. If you have 2 instruments on at the same time, one will be lit up illuminated red, and one will be illuminated green. So that's for me right now how far I would like to go in covering the harmony features being the last, and now is a good time. Do we have any questions?
I had a question in the chat here from Cheryl, who said, why would you want to change the split?
That's a very good question. People like to change the split. Sometimes they like to have more notes on the lower keyboard down here, and they want to maybe, like the gal was talking to us, and she said, I like to go down here. I like to be able to have access to more melody notes. So when you want to have access to more melody notes, the way to do that is to change your split. And when I change it, then I can access more notes than just given from this F-sharp 3 on up. So it depends on the different types of music you play. Believe it or not, people who like to play blues music, they love to change their splits because they want more notes down here. So that's a very good question. I don't really change the split. I don't use it in that way. However, I will change it if I'm going to play some things on the lower keyboard and I want the whole lower keyboard to be one sound, then I'm getting one sound there and I'm able to do that. So that's a good question. A lot of people don't, but you certainly can. If it's a benefit to you, then it's more keys for you to be able to play.
Can you show us how to do it too, Joni?
Change the split?
Yeah.
Sure. All right, so I'm going to go into features, and I'm going to go to lower split is what the screen says. And I'm going to select it. And it says F-sharp 3, because that's where Lowry put it on all instruments, okay? This is F-sharp 1, this is F-sharp 2, this is F-sharp 3. Now, let's say I want to put it at C. I'm going to touch the C note, and it has now changed, and it says C3. That's C1, C2. There's my C3. That's what I set the split at. Now remember, the other thing that I said is make sure once you've changed the split and touched the note you wanted, you're going to turn your feature button off. That keeps the split where you set it. If you touch any other notes, the split will keep changing. So remember to turn that little feature light on and select it and touch the key that you want, and that's all you have to do. It's pretty easy to do it. And it is
Alrighty.
easier to see it. I'm a real show and tell person, so it's easy for us, especially now on Zoom. We're helping people privately as well. And I just take my computer to the instrument and show the buttons, and show and tell seems to be a lot easier than a whole lot of words.
All right. We have another question here from Phyllis. Phyllis, go ahead and unmute yourself if you can. I don't see you on video, but hopefully you can
Okay.
hear us.
Hi.
There you go. Hi, Phyllis.
Hi, I know we went over this already, but just if you can just briefly tell me what the song, I have the easy 3. So I have the song setup, and style setup, and select. If I don't even know if I should be using those 3, because I know I don't have the option to have different styles, and I don't know really what that style setup I know what they're for. What is the style setup for?
Style setup.
On the easy 3.
When you touch a rhythm style, a music style, style setup selects a sound for you, for your melody. You can change it if you want, but it selects the sound. That's what style setup does.
So by touching the style setup, whatever I touched on, say whatever country, it's already giving me a style, right?
When you select a music style, in other words, a rhythm, style setup automatically comes on. So you don't have to really touch it.
So there's really no reason to use that at all.
No, it gets used all the time, but you don't have to activate it.
Oh, okay, so I shouldn't be touching that one. And all right, so then that's. And when should I be touching the select button? Only when I want to change what? The select button. Use it when I want to change. Like I'm not using it for the style setup, but I'm using it for the.
Whenever you go to the feature menu, which is the feature button, and you want to use one of those features, that's when you get to the feature you want. You scroll to it, of course, and then touch select.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And that's like, select is like, think of it as turning it on. Whatever feature you scrolled to, touch select. It's like the on off.
It just keeps going back, and when I hit feature, it goes back and forth from keyboard split to the home screen, back and forth. Doesn't go to anything else.
Yeah, you have to scroll in order to see the other features.
Oh, okay. Okay, all right. Thank you.
Does that help you?
All righty.
Yes, that helped a lot.
Good
Thank you.
questions.
Anything else?
All right.
All right. Well, I hope that was helpful for everyone. Yep, we're going to play a little bit right now. Give you a last.
I'm gonna do some real quick announcements, Joni, and then we'll bring Joni back for a nice finale number for everybody. Do want to thank everybody again. Boy, we had almost 50 people today join our class. So everybody say hi, Jason. Hi, Jason.
Hi, Jason.
You wanted to say hi to everybody. So I just have some real brief announcements for everybody just to make sure y'all know what's coming up this week. I got really exciting stuff. We're going to have our variety classes on Wednesday and Thursday, and those are going to be led by Sean Maloney this week. And I don't think Sean has taught one of these variety classes yet. He was a real big part of our 4th of July spectacular that we did a little while back, and he has played a number of other times on camera for us on Zoom. He's also one of the big behind-the-scenes guys helping us out online with all of our classes. But now you're going to have a class from him coming up this week. And on Friday, I don't know. Have we announced our concert artist yet, Sean? I don't know if we've done this publicly, but it is going to be Rick Anderson. So you guys are getting a week full of Arizona entertainment. You got Sean doing the variety classes on Wednesday and Thursday. And of course, those are at their regular time of 2 o'clock Eastern time and 11 o'clock a.m. Arizona time. And then on Friday, same time for Rick Anderson's concert. And that's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be 2 o'clock Eastern and 11 o'clock Arizona time. So with that said, I'm going to turn it back over to Joni. If you have any questions, make sure you get in contact with one of your local Fletcher staff members. And, you know, Joni covered a lot of really, really valuable material. I do want to mention, too, that this is, you know, we're recording this as we do with all of our Zoom sessions, and we upload those to our YouTube channel. So just in case anybody hasn't gone there yet, I want to give a quick plug. Now, this is really cool. When we started doing this stuff, we only had maybe 100 or something, less than 100 subscribers to our channel. Now we've got over 400 subscribers. So that's really cool. If you haven't done this yet, this is a big help for us. It's obviously totally free. And all you have to do is go to youtube.com/Fletcher Music Centers. It's youtube.com/Fletcher Music Centers. And there'll be a little button that says subscribe. And by doing that, all the subscribe button means is that you're going to get a notification when we put up a new video. So if it's a class by Joni or Sean's classes will be up there. The 4th of July concert, I actually just rewatched that the other day just for fun. All this stuff is getting uploaded on our YouTube channel. So if you have taken one of these classes and you want to review the material, that's a great way to do it. And of course, if you have further questions, make sure you follow up with your local Fletcher Music staff member. So having said all that, we're going to turn it back over to Joni for a wonderful finale number. Joni, take it away. All right, let's unmute everybody. Give Joni a big round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me just encourage you again, remind everyone that if any questions or clarifications you need, very important that you communicate to us and your local store, call your people and get some help by phone or in person as you feel safe. Everyone stay well and be safe.
All righty, we'll see everybody later this week on Zoom.